Hi everyone, welcome to Fill in the Gaps channel. Today I will share with you some frequently used accounting Excel formula/functions that are very helpful and handy to help you throughout your accounting job and career. And just to give you a quick overview, the types of formulas we will go over today is Xlookup, Vlookup, pivot tables, some formatting, IFNA formulas, SUMIFs, how to use if formulas, combining cells, and a variety of other ones such as removing duplicates, using the Alt key to copy and paste, text to column, freezing the pane, and setting the print area and other printing options. Now let's get started. The first thing we're going to use is the Xlookup formula. The Xlookup formula is a very handy formula in helping you look up a value, returning a value based on the lookup value, where in a set of data, the lookup value can be in any direction. It could be on the left side, on the right side. So in this example, we're trying to look up the revenue given the project number. And you can see from our data set, the project number is on the right side, whereas the revenue is on the left side. Because we know that the alternative option we could use is a VLOOKUP, but with VLOOKUPs, the lookup value always starts from left to right. But with Xlookups, the lookup value can be in any directions of the columns. And keep in mind that Xlookups are only available in Microsoft, newer versions of Microsoft Office, specifically the Microsoft 365, and it's definitely not on the Excel 2016. And that's all I know. So because this is Excel 2016, I'm unable to do the formula here. As you can see, it doesn't pop up the formula. So I'm going to be using an alternative, which is the online version, Microsoft 365, in order to perform this formula for you to see. Therefore, let's get started. So we're going to do, on the revenue cell column here, we're going to do equals Xlookup. And the lookup value is the project number, because we are trying to return the return value, which is the revenue. And the lookup array is the project number. So the project number is right here. So I'll select all the cells here and then hit F4 to lock up this section, comma, and now the return array is what I'm trying to look up, which is the revenue. So in a similar fashion, select all the revenues sections here and then hit F4 to lock it up. Now do a close parentheses and hit enter. And this will help look up the values. For example, AA1 is $65,000 in revenue, and we can see it's $65,000 in revenue. So this is how you use an Xlookup. The next formula we're going to go over is VLOOKUP, which is the traditional type. So with VLOOKUP, our lookup value has to start from left, and our return it leads to the right. So from project number to revenue, from left to right. So right here, we're going to do equals VLOOKUP. Our lookup value is the first project number. Table array would be anything from the lookup value all the way to revenue on the right side, which is our return value. So in the data set here, we're going to do the project number table area here all the way to revenue, because that's what we're trying to look up. And then we're going to lock up this formula by hitting F4, comma, it's going to ask us the column index number, which is how many columns it took to reach the revenue, which is our return. So that's 1, 2. And then are you looking up for the approximate match or exact match? Since I'm looking for exact match, I'm going to type false and close the parentheses, hit enter. Okay, so I made a mistake here. You can see when I counted the columns, it should be 3 columns over, because from project number to revenue, that was 1, 2, 3 columns over. So let me fix this really quick. And this will give us the revenue. You can reformat it by adding some commas, and you can remove some extra zeros. And so this will return us the revenue. So for example, for AA007, it's 51,000, which agrees with our results. Now I have a second questionnaire here, and it says that if the revenue is over $50,000, then we need budget cuts. So this is an example of a layer formula where we will do a combination of an if formula and a VLOOKUP formula. So here we're saying that let's look up the revenues, and if they are more than $50,000, then we need to do a budget cut. So to make this formula happen, what we're going to do is now, instead of just going straight to the VLOOKUP, we're going to add in a first formula that will encompass this VLOOKUP. So we're going to do equals if. So what we're trying to do is if, and then we're trying to look up the revenue. So same thing, if VLOOKUP, our lookup value is the project number, and then table array, same thing, from left to right, project number to revenue, hit F4 to lock up the formula, and then how many columns over? That was 1, 2, 3 from lookup to return, and then false because I'm looking for exact matches. So if this is what we're trying to look up, the revenue, if it is greater, you see how I have a greater sign now, greater than $50,000, so I type down $50,000, then I will need budget cuts. So I'm going to do quote in quotes and type the word need budget cuts, need budget cuts, and then comma, the false, so we know obviously the false if it's equal to 50,000 and less. So then that will be don't need budget cuts. So I'm just gonna put it in quotes and type in a text saying no budget cuts. And now close parentheses, hit enter. And then I'm going to drag this formula down. So we can see that for all the ones that are over $50,000, it needs budget cuts, and all the ones that are equal to or under 50,000 don't need budget cuts. So this is how we do X-lookups and V-lookups with some if formulas. Next, we're going to move on to layer pivot tables and some formatting. You can see here we have a set of information here. And the first questionnaire says we're going to create a pivot table that organizes the cost center versus the revenue center. Let's add some more to it, by department and their net earnings. So this is saying that we want to organize a pivot table for cost center and a pivot table for revenue center that is further organized by the department and their total net earnings. So we can see that in this pivot table, the concerning parts for us will be column A for the center, the department, and the net earnings. So to do that, what we're going to do is select all this area of stuff that we want to present it in a pivot table, and we're going to go to data. Actually, we're going to go to insert pivot table. And so the select a table range already selects the table for us. And we want it in, and then the second prompt is choose where you want the pivot table to be placed. Well, we want it in this current worksheet. So I'm just gonna choose the existing worksheet radio button, and then for the location, I'll just press one of the cells here. So then I want the pivot table here, and then I'm going to hit OK. Now I'm going to have a blank pivot table. So to create the pivot table that we have previously looked at, what I'm going to do is have my department on rows. So now you can see that here is the department, and we want to look at their net earnings. So here are the net earnings, and we want to make sure it's in sums because we're looking at their total net earnings. And then we want it categorized by whether the department is a cost center or a revenue center. So there's two ways you can do it. You could either take the center and put it in columns, so it will categorize it for you that for these departments, which ones is a cost center and which ones is a profit center and their total net earnings. Or what you could do is you could actually create two pivot tables, and this will make it more clean. A pivot table for cost center and a pivot table for a revenue center. So how to do that? The first thing is take this center and then put it on filters instead. And so then here in this all here, you can make it as select multiple items. So you could either present it by cost center or revenue center. So right now it has both selected, so it's the sum. But if I just want cost center, it will show me just the cost centers. And then I can add some commas to make it more clean looking, reduce some zeros for the cents. And then to do one for revenue center, then I can just copy this pivot table and paste another one here. And then on the drop down filter, choose revenue center. So now I have two pivot tables, one for cost center and one for revenue center. Okay, so the next question says to sort net earnings from highest to lowest. This is a pretty highly used formula. So in this table of data here, what this is saying is that on the net earnings here on column F, I want to sort the values here from largest to smallest. So to do this, there's two ways you can do it. You could first put on a filter on these column name titles by under the home tab, sort and filter. Actually not that. Go to put it in a filter, go to your, need to figure out how to add a filter. Okay, so to add a filter, you have to go to data and then select the headers here and then click on filter, and this will create a filter. And then you can, from here, sort from largest to smallest. And this will sort it out for you. Alternatively, what you could do is select everything, all the data from the header all the way to the information here. And then also under data, go to sort. And then you want to choose the column that's called net earnings, since that's what we're sorting. And then we're sorting the cell values from largest to smallest. So this way works as well. All right, so the next thing is we're going to format expenses, column F, to that of net earnings. Oh, okay, yes. Okay, so we're going to format expenses, column E, actually, to that of net earnings. So this is saying that we want expenses to be in the format of net earnings. A quick way to do it is under home, there's a format painter. So I'm going to select all the information on net earnings, click on format painter, and then just paint it over. And now the expenses formatting will match that of net earnings. This is quite useful when sometimes when you have something that's already in a certain formatting and you don't want to dissect out what exact formatting was used, then you could use this format painter. All right, so this concludes the pivot table and some formatting stuff. Next, we're gonna do IFNA and SUMIF. IFNA is a formula that is a conditional type of formula. It's saying that if you help me find something that is not applicable, then give me a certain answer. SUMIFs is saying that I want you to sum up all these things for me, given that it's this lookup or given a certain conditions. So these are helpful because it helps you set up the way you want to add some things up. And if certain things don't come out to be not applicable, then what do you want to make the result turn into for these not applicable stuff? So to incorporate these two formulas, I think a really good example is how to take all of our journal entries and put it into a trial balance. Basically, I'll summarize our journal entries by debits and credits through our chart of accounts here. Because what we know that how these two formulas come in handy is that when you look up your debits and credits of your journal entries, there are times some results of the journal entries aren't going to meet all your chart of accounts, because not every account is going to be used in a month or any period's worth of journal entries. So what happens when there's no results or non-applicable of these? Well, then we set it to 0 because it means there's no activities of those things happening. And then, so that's where the IFNA comes in handy. For the SUMIFs, this is saying that, we have all these journal entries here on the right side. How am I going to sum everything up by its account number? Well, then I can use a SUMIF, because what I'm saying is that given my specific chart of accounts, I want the sum, the total debit or credit for the month or for the period of a specific account of the journal entries. I want all the sums. And the if is saying that the if is kind of like our lookup value. This is saying that I want to sum up all my assets, my liabilities, my equities, my incomes and expenses for the month. So if the journal entries equal to any of my chart of account numbers, accounts here, then sum it up for me. And if you don't find anything, then zero in. So this is kind of the whole point of IFNAs and SUMIFs for this accounting purpose here. So to apply this formula, then what we can do, and I have an example here that is doing the formula for us, and I'll just try to recreate this formula here and then make sure that our answers agree. So to do that, what I'm going to do is do equals if NA, and then sum if the range would be kind of like our lookup value. So I'm looking up my accounts by their account number. So on going back on my journal entries here, I will select all the account numbers. So I'm using my account numbers as the lookup value instead of the account names, and then hit F4 to lock up the formula, to lock up this section here. My criteria is similar to my lookup value. So here are the account numbers that I'm trying to look up. And then my sum range, since there's debits and credits, I'm going to work on the debits first. So I'll select the debits here, and then hit F4, close parentheses. So this formula so far is saying that if you help me find the accounts totals for the period, help me look up the debits first. So the debits are positive numbers. That's why my SUMIF is positive. But to look up the negative, credits are my negatives, because debits plus credits, they zero out. So I'm going to add a minus SUMIF for my credits now. So similarly, I will highlight the area for the account numbers first. Hit F4 to lock it up. My criteria, which is the account numbers, and then the sum range, which are the credits. And also hit F4, close parentheses. So now I'm looking for the credit side. Now if I press comma now, it's asking me, what if the value is NA? So this is where the NA comes up. So if you can't find any account numbers that fulfill and match with the chart of accounts, what do you want me to give you? So then I'll just put 0, because this is just saying that if there's no journal entries for the month that pertain to our chart of accounts, then it means nothing happened this month, and so the value will be 0. And now I'm going to close the parentheses, and this will be the results. So I could similarly use the format painter and paint it over here to see. And then this was my key. So this is what I tried to do to recreate it. So to check if it agrees, you could also do equals, column C equals column D. So C3 equals D3. And if it's true, that means we did it correctly. Okay, so this looks good. So this is an example of how you use an IFNA and Sumifs formula. All right, next we're going to be doing the how to use an if formula and also how to combine cells. Here on the right side, I have two examples of ways that you can combine text. So here I am looking at some policy periods here from May, so 1 year policies from May 2021 to May 2022. And they are organized in different cells. So what if you want to combine the two cells and you want it to show up like this, as in a combination of the two cells? So this is how you would do it. So in this example, I did equals text equals text, where I'm looking at first at cell E2 and I want to format it in dates. And then I want to add a space and then add a dash and add another space and then add the second cell's text, which is the 5/1/2022, also in month format. That way, you're combining two cells and presenting it in one text. So let me try to show it to you by doing it again. So equals text, the first value, and I want to format it in dates. So in month, day, year. So you see this will get the first section here, but I also, you see how the dash that's separating the two values, there's a space, a dash, and another space. So to do that, you're gonna do and in quotes space and in quotes dash and in quotes space. And now the second text, which is the second cell, which is this cell here, and in quotes in date format. So every time you want to specify a specific type of presentation, you have to put it in quotes. So it'll make, as a result, it'll make it look like this. And in the dates here, you could add two M's if you want it in 05. So you can see two M's, it makes it in 05, two D's makes it in 2-digit days, and 4 Y's will make it in 4 years like this. So it's very adjustable where you want to present the dates here. But I just want it in single digits for month and date. So, and likewise, instead of having the dates in slash, you could have it in dash. So you could you could really change it up. So I'm just going to drag the formula down now. Now, the reason why I have it done like this is because these are dates. So when combining cells, you have to make sure when it's in a date format, you have to use the text formula to combine it, because I'll just show you how it looks like if I don't use the text. If I just do equals this and space and dash and space and the second text, this is how it looks like. And this is because these dates are in date value. So when you combine it into a text, it will not look like a date anymore. And a workaround is that you could add a little quote in front of it, and that will make it not like that. So it'll turn it into like a date format, but these won't be dates anymore. These will turn into text. So that's a workaround. But I prefer this version better because I don't have to format anything and not change them not dates. So you have your options here. Now, this is how we combine text. And it won't be that complicated if you have just normal texts that aren't dates. So for example, if I have just a client number and then the name of the company, and I want to combine it into a single cell text, I could do equals this and add a space between it and this. So that will combine the text. And if you want a dash between it, you can also do and dash. Oh, sorry. Oh, and this. So you can make it like that. Okay, so now that we cover some ways to combine text, we could also use create a layer if formula to help me find what is the policy period given the dates. And let me just add in a bunch of dates right now. 5. So what I mean here is, let's create a formula that given these dates, it will return to me which policy period it falls under. So for example, for April 24th, 2021 falls into this policy period. And June 15, 2023 will fall into this period. But it will take forever to look all these dates and match it with the policy periods by yourself because it will take forever. So we can use an if formula by saying that if this date is less than or equal to the last day of the policy period here, then give me the policy period. And if it isn't within the range of these policy periods, give me NA. So that's where the NA comes in hand. But before we do that, before I do the NA, so far I've only done the formula for the first policy period. I haven't completed the if formula for the rest of the policy periods yet. So in this layer if formula, I will continue doing that. So let's erase the NA for now, and we'll keep going with the if formula. So to do that, you see how first I already have the outer if formula, and then I will just continue doing it for the rest of the policy periods. So if B2 is less than or equal to the second policy period and hit F4, then give me the second policy period, also F4. And then keep going if this date is less than or equal to the last day of the first period, of the last day of the third policy period. Then give me the third policy period. And then continue, comma, if this is less than or equal to the fourth last day's policy period, then give me the last policy period. And now I can do, if the dates don't fulfill the ranges of all these 4 policy periods, then for the value, if false, give me NA. So now I'm going to drag the formula down. So you can see this formula, a layered if, has helped me look up that for each particular date, which policy period or range does it fall under? And the ones that don't fall under the range give me NA. So March 25th, 2026 doesn't fall in any of this range because the last date of the policy period of the last policy is May 1st, 2025. And there aren't any ranges where the date is March 25th, 2026. Likewise with May 31st, 2025, it falls out of these ranges. So this is an example of how you can use an if formula, but super layered. All right, now we're gonna go to the last set of Excel formulas that we can do. And the first one is how to remove duplicates. Sometimes when you copy a bunch of stuff into your Excel spreadsheet, you have a lot of duplicates right here. And there's a way you could get rid of the dupes. So just to show you, I'll put the after here. And having all the data selected, go to data and remove duplicates. And this will remove all the duplicates. So you're left with 4 unique set of information. Okay, number 2 is using the Alt key to copy and paste. For some reason, mine isn't working right now, but every time you hit the Alt button on your keyboard, if you press on it, it could let you select only specific sections of a page, web page, PDF page of stuff that you want to copy. So just an example here, in this investment statement, I have a bunch of stuff and I don't want to copy everything like this. Well, if you press on the Alt button on your keyboard, this cursor here, it will change to it'll look different like this cursor right now. It will have a little box, and then it'll let you only copy, say, the security names stuff here. Just these particular black fonts, not everything else. Mine isn't working for some reason, but it normally works all the time. So that's just a quick way to copy only the stuff you need. On the other hand, let's say you just want to copy information from the transaction total. You press the Alt, and then this cursor will change to have like a little box, and then you can select just the transaction total, copy it, and paste it to the Excel spreadsheet. Okay, so the next helpful one we could use is text to column, and also formulas of left or right. Sometimes when you have a data set, you can see that here are the customers organized by their last name and first name. And let's say you only want their last name, which is the first words here. And to do that, yes, you could type it out, but it'll take you forever if you do that. So what you could do is copy the information here, the first and last names, the last and first names, and then under data, go to text to column and leave it in the delimited radio button, hit next, and you're going to select by comma, because you can see these words are separated by comma. And then you can see in the preview, it separates it out for you of last name versus first name. And from there, you could just hit finish now. So it has now separated it for you. And so now you can just copy the last names to your desires. On the other hand, there are sometimes data where you just want the name of the company name here, so ABC Company, XYZ Enterprises, etc. And you don't want the numbers in the front here. So to do that, you can also use the text to column feature. So again, I'm going to select the data here and then go to text to column and then select delimited, because you see it says characters such as commas or tabs separate each field. And in this situation, they're separated by dashes, you can see. And I just want the company name. So you can see in the preview, it splits it out for me. And I noticed that there's also a space after each dash. So I also hit, or if you do hit the space, you could further separate it even further by the client number, the first word of the company name, and the second word. But you don't have to, so I just want it by the company name. Hit finish, and that will separate it out for me. And so that's how you would use the text to column feature. But let's just say in another example, let's just say you if we go back, undo what we did earlier, you just want the client names. You could do this whole text to column option, or if they're pretty congruent where the client numbers are in 4 digits, so it's easy to just pull out by using the left or right formula. Since this time it's on the left side, I could do equals left. Since the client numbers are on the left, click on the cell that contains your information, and the number of characters is how much you're trying to return it. So the client number has 4 digits, so I'm going to type 4, and this will give me just the client number. So that's when it comes in handy. But let's just say if your client number is on the right side, then you do equals right, and then it's 4 characters. So let me show you as an example. Let's just make some fake ones out. Let's do and. Let's say these are the client names and you just want the last 4 digits, then you could do equals right. Click on the cell, and then it's 4 characters that you want to return. So this will give you the client numbers. Okay, so the next one we're gonna look at is freezing the pane. So what I mean by freezing the pane is sometimes when you go through a list of information, if you keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, it doesn't show you the title headers anymore because you already passed it. Well, to make sure that you still see the headers, you can click on, you could do a freeze, you could freeze the pane. So what I normally do is I click on the second columns cell after the header and go to view and freeze pane so that you can see everything. You can still see your headers here. Or you can unfreeze and then do the second cell of the first column, and it will look like this. I just personally prefer the second cell's second column. Like that. Okay, so the last thing I want to review with you guys now is how to set a section of your Excel spreadsheet as a print area, resizing things, and to view things in print mode. So let's say you have all this set of data here that you want to print, and I want to print from center to net earnings here. So you only want this to be printed out. So what you could do is you can select all the information here and go to under page layout on print area, set print area. So now this is the area that you set that you want to print. So this is how to print out a specific section or area of your spreadsheet. And to preview it, just to make sure that it looks okay, you can go to review, actually go to view, page break view. And so it shows you that you're only printing this section here. And you'll notice that the net earnings column here isn't in the print area because the initial page has exceeded the size to include the net earnings, which is the last column. So to include it in this print area, because you want to print net earnings column too, you just take these dash lines and then drag it so that it shows up the whole page. So it includes that extra column now. And if you go to your page layout, you can see you can also scale to fit how you want the print to look like. Let's say you wanted to zoom to 100%. That's not going to work because at 100%, it's not going to include the net earnings. So you have to drag it out, back out. But you could make the print smaller So let's say you want it at 50%. So it will make it a smaller print for you. But I'll just leave it at the 93% default. And to take this out of this print preview, go back to your view and just click normal. So this is a pretty, these are just a bit of some of the widely used formulas when working with accounting stuff. Hope you find this helpful. Please subscribe for more, and if you like a part 2. Thank you for watching.